right, so we're talking today about canine communication. Again, my name is Kyle McCraith, and this is why I'm doing it. This is Doc McKenzie. Doc was an expert in equine and canine communication, and today's class, I'm told, is exactly the same for horses as it is for dogs. So if you're a horse person, this pertains to you as well. So this is Doc. He developed this, the 7 steps, which is what we're going to be the meat and potatoes of today. Excuse me. And I give full credit to him, and I just, again, I'm honored to present, and I hope I do him justice. Again, this is Doc's academic property. I know that this is a very public forum, and I want it to be shared, but I just throw this disclaimer up there just so unscrupulous people may have a hard time if they try to make a buck on it. Today, we're going to be talking about canine communication. We're going to talk about auditory, olfactory, tactile communication. And then the big one is the 7 steps. That's the visual communication. That's what Doc has developed. Okay, jumping in, auditory communication. We have 5 basic sound groups. The infantile sound group, that's the dog's crying, whimpering, or whining. Please remember that whining is just a plea for assistance, and it pertains to working dogs. And you hear these a lot on the outwork for when we're doing bite work. Dogs will whine. And just remember that when you're hearing whining from a dog, they're looking for assistance. They're looking for guidance. It's not the time to go heavy on them, to help them through what their indecision is. Excuse me. The warning sound group, that's our barking and our growling. There's some very important information in that, especially in the barking portion. The pitch and the rhythm are important for the bark. A dog that is very secure with himself, the bark is going to be usually deeper and very rhythmic. Roof, roof, roof. And here I go looking like a goof, but it's deeper usually and rhythmic. But dogs that have less confidence, they might be very pitchy and up and down, and it's not as rhythmic. So they're all over the place. So if you encounter a dog and you're going to associate with a dog that is showing this pitchy kind of bark, just remember that they're probably insecure, and you're going to have to adjust the way that you communicate with them. Eliciting, that's our howling, that's our long distance markers. Our withdrawal is our yelping. And then the pleasure sound group, which is our moaning. That's always fun to talk to 18-year-old college students. Okay, moving on. Olfactory communication. So olfactory communication is our sense of smell. This is dogs able to identify other species, even right down to the individual, just through the sense of smell. They are able to decipher health and mating receptiveness through the sense of smell. And how that's done is through the vomeronasal organ. So the photos on the screen there show the vomeronasal organ. It sits just above the roof of the dog's mouth. And its purpose is to process hormones and pheromones. So the air that gets into the vomeronasal organ is accessed through the roof of the mouth. And when you see a dog doing this motion, with their mouth, what they're doing is with their tongue, they're pushing air into the vomeronasal organ. That motion is called phlegming. So they're trying to get some hormones, pheromones into the vomeronasal organ for processing. Also for the olfactory is the beef stew analogy. I'm sure you've all heard this. The beef stew analogy goes like this. When you go to grandma's house and grandma's cooking beef stew, you walk in and you smell beef stew. But a dog walks in grandma's house and the dog can smell beef and potatoes and carrots and peas and whatever else is going on in that beef stew. Dogs are able to separate out odors. This is beneficial to us. Some people do imprinting or odor introduction using a bundle type method. You know, they're putting cocaine, heroin, and meth and all in a bundle. And then they're very successful in the dogs can separate out those separate odors. Olfactory fatigue, Dr. Sue, I got this from you. Hopefully I don't butcher it, but olfactory fatigue refers to it's essentially nose blindness. So if you walk into someone's house and they happen to have sulfur in their water, you can smell sulfur for a few minutes and then it just kind of dissipates. You don't smell it after a while. That's olfactory fatigue. Dogs do not have this, okay? With every inhale, they're smelling, okay? Tactile communication, the sense of touch. So some things on this, the paws on the withers of another dog, like this drawing here. This comes from Doc's book. And by the way, all the drawings you see in this presentation were drawn by Doc's wife. So please respect. So the paws on the withers or the chin on the withers of another dog is a sign of disrespect, social dominance. I'm sure you've seen this with dogs even playing, but it's a sign of disrespect and should be treated accordingly. You know, pay attention if it could lead to a fight. Licking is generally a sign of acceptance. Mouthing is generally a sign of respect. I do want to do a side note here. This whole presentation is general rules when it comes to behavior and communication. There's always outliers. There's always the exception. So look at the whole picture. Like for ears, for example, I'm going to talk about ears in a few minutes. If your dog's ears are flat, I might say the dog is insecure, but we know that, you know, when you're petting a dog and they're happy, a lot of times their ears go flat. So just look at it as these are general rules, and there's always you have to pay attention to the whole big picture. Okay, and then back to tactile communication, biting. And there's one way to touch, all right, through a bite. Dogs learn in the whelping box to inhibit their bite so they don't hurt each other. So they learn the inhibited bite in the whelping box. The one-time no is something that mom gives the puppy. All right, mom's had enough, and it's usually a bite over the snout, and it's very meaningful, and it's painful, and the dogs learn with one correction that it was not acceptable. All right, so these dogs learn this one-time no from mom. And then biting. So the bite gives a lot of information. Generally speaking, a deep, strong, firm bite is a confident dog. And these are dogs that generally would come frontally to you and conduct their bite, versus a shallow or the typewriter bite. Those are dogs who generally are less secure. They just want to do as much damage as possible and get the heck out of there. All right, so the type of bite and the way the dog approaches you is very important information when you're going to communicate with a dog. Okay, Doc. All right, Dr. Sue, thank you for this photo. This is Buzz, Dr. Sue's dog, and the fat guy on the left is me. That's Doc McKenzie, and that's that SUNY Cobble taken a few years ago. So this is the meat and potatoes of the presentation. This is reading your dog, and this is the visual reading of your dog. So, Doc traveled the world. He was a canine expert, animal expert, and he realized that a lot of handlers had a hard time reading their dogs. So being the academic that he was, he went back and he developed a very academic type system to read dogs in order so that you're not missing things, and it's a good guideline for people trying to figure out what the dog is trying to tell them. This system I use in every dog encounter that I have. It's the 7 steps, and it's very, very worthwhile when you're communicating with dogs, when you're engaging with dogs. So credit goes to Dr. McKenzie. Again, I appreciate Doc, and here we go. All right, so here they are. These are the 7 steps. First is energy level. Second, body axis, stride, muscle tone, neck, head, and tail. So these 7 steps are to be read in order. They are listed in order of importance. So body axis is more important than what the tail is showing. And you'll notice dogs, when they're communicating and giving out these signals, a lot of times they'll give you ambiguous signals or multiple signals. One will say that the dog is confident, and the other might say that they're insecure. And that's why these are listed in order of importance, because say the dog is leaning backwards and but the ears are forward, you're gonna pay more attention to the lean of the dog versus what the head is saying. And we'll get this will hopefully make more sense to you in a minute. So these are listed in order of importance, and they're to be read in order. And then I list on here 1,000-hour eyes, and credit to Stephen White, who's on this. 1,000-hour eyes is, in a nutshell, it's learning to read animal behavior, and the whole point behind the 1,000-hour eyes is that it takes a long time to master it. So, get in your journey and see as many dogs as you can and touch as many dogs as you can. Use these tools to help you learn canine communication, but just know that it takes a long time to do. All right, so 7 steps. First one is energy level. There are 3 signs of high energy. One of them is excessive barking. The next is tail wagging. So tail wagging is high energy. It's energy. It's not an indication of friendliness, but energy and excitement. I'm sure that you have seen dogs biting people or in a dog fight and their tails are wagging. That's just energy and excitement. All right. So, people, a lot of times people will look at a dog and if the dog's tail is wagging, they say, oh, it's a friendly dog. Not necessarily. It just means that the dog is excited and energetic. Another sign of high energy is muscle tremors. You see these on these, a lot of times Malinois, Dutchies, those type of dogs. You can physically see the muscle tremors. Other dogs, they may be tremoring out of excitement, but you can't see it. But if you touch your hand to their chest, usually you can feel it. One of the dogs I have at home is one of those muscle tremors, but you can't see it on her unless you're actually touching their chest. And then the third thing I want to talk about here is the Yerkes-Dodson law, and this is a big one when it comes to energy level. So this is the Yerkes-Dodson law. This Yerkes and Dodson were some scientists. They did some research and they compared arousal or excitement versus the performance. And what they found is that as excitement increases, performance increases to a point. And then as excitement continues to increase, the performance starts to decrease. So we want our dogs to be adequately aroused or excited, but we also want their performance to be as best as possible. So we want to try to keep our dogs in the 10-2 of this, what we call the inverted U. So we're trying to balance the energy of the dog so that we can keep them in this optimal 10-2 inverted U portion. All right. So if we have an energetic dog and they're way on the right-hand side of this inverted U, and we say we put them out there in a bite line or a bite workout, and we put an energetic or an excited decoy out there, then we can very easily bring that dog from over the U already to way over the U. And the idea is we want to keep the dog's energy up, but we also want their brain. So we don't want to put them in such an overexcited place that they can't think. So we have to balance the energy that the dog brings to the table. And this comes in handy, especially when you're decoying, but I use this every day in a lot of my classes. I will look at the dog's energy that's coming in. If they're very, very excited, then I will act very dull in order to balance that energy and keep the dog in a 10 and 2 up top of that inverted U. And this goes across the board. So I wrote on here old style dogs versus new style dogs. So years ago, some of the working dogs that we were getting were donated, and they were basically pets that were given up, and their excitement level, their arousal levels were usually kind of low. So as decoys, we would have to be very energetic and very jazzy and a lot of movement and everything in order to get that excitement level up, and then we would get a successful bite and everything. And then when we started to import these dogs from Europe, they're coming to us already very, very aroused, excitable. And especially Malinois, Dutchies, they're coming in like really hot. They're coming in hot. So when we first started getting them from overseas, we were used to decoying this jazzy, energetic style, and we were having a hard time getting the dog to out because the dogs were not thinking. They couldn't think. They were just such a high, excited state. So we had to learn to balance the energy of those dogs by being a really dull decoy. And the idea is, again, to keep that dog's brain functioning so they can hear the out command, they can hear the out sequence. So when you see an excitable dog, and it's, I'm sure you've all seen this with dogs on a bite, and they're just absolutely very, very high energy, and then people are screaming and everybody's carrying on, and they won't want it. They don't want it out. A lot of times they can't process that out sequence. So you need to calm everybody down and allow the dog to stay in the bite until everybody's calm. And you can actually, a lot of times you can see it in the dog's eyes. It's like, oh, and you welcome them back to earth, and then you can do your out sequence from there. But balancing the energy is crucial. I do this every time I deal with a dog. I look at the energy level. It's the most important thing on the 7 steps, and I try to balance the dog's energy. I do some private trainings, detection, tracking, that type of thing. And when a dog comes into me, these are pets, and some of them come in on fire, and I know that I can't be a jazzy instructor out there at that time. And then other dogs come in and they're like, yeah, I just want to go home and go to sleep. But then I have to bring my energy level up and try to get them energetic and performing well. Okay, so the Yerkes-Dodson law, worth paying attention to. I know I use it on pretty much every encounter I have with a dog. All right, number 2 in this list of 7 is the body axis. And when we're talking about body axis, we're talking about where's the dog leaning. It's an indicator of confidence or dominance level. Upright or forward leaning dogs generally are more confident, and then the more rearward leaning, they are less confident. It's very easy to see because it involves the entire body of the dog, but a lot of times it happens very quick. And if you miss it, then you missed it. And I wish I could find the video that I saw once. It was a German Shepherd. I think it was in Alaska. It was tied out in its kennel. And on the camera, you see a wolf come in. And spoiler alert, nothing happened. But you can see the interaction between the wolf and this German Shepherd. And the German Shepherd stood tall and confident. And for a second there, that the German Shepherd just kind of, his body axis backed off just a little bit. He leaned backwards, and the wolf saw it and started to capitalize on it and move forward. The point there is that it's a big thing to see, but it usually happens really, really fast. So you have to be paying attention to that. It's also number 2 on the list, which is very, very high in order of importance. So here's some drawings of a confident dog. This dog standing upright, even a little forward. And then the less confident dog, they start to lean back a little bit to the point where they're almost leaning way backwards. And one thing I want to notice is approaching strange dogs, right? So body axis, this is something I took from the movie Elf, and this is how Americans greet dogs. They lean forward, in this dominant type position, and then they reach over the dog and they touch them on the withers, which is a rude gesture, and then they wonder why they get bit. So, when I teach people to greet dogs, I just tell them, let them come to your space instead of you going into them. And then, if it's a very insecure dog, then lower your body, blade your body, that type of thing, look away, type of thing. But this is something that people wonder why they get bit, and this is why. All right, these dogs are reading us differently than what we expect them to be doing. All right, number 3 is stride. Stride refers to how are the legs carrying the body. Carrying the chest high off the ground generally is a sign of confidence, and a chest carried lower to the ground is generally a sign of a less confident dog. And those are the dogs you kind of see them slinking around, they get real low. We're talking about stride at that point. And these are indicators of confidence or insecurity. So here's this is a confident dog, is holding his chest nice and high off of the ground. And the less confident dog, a more insecure dog, they start to lower their body even to the point where they're touching the ground. And then the ultimate is when they roll over, expose their genitalia, and some will even urinate there. That's a very insecure dog generally. All right, muscle tone. Also in an indication of confidence or insecurity. Tight muscle tone is generally an insecure dog. So there are dogs that are in phenomenal shape and they have tight muscles, and that's our outlier right there. But a tight muscle tone is a sign of insecurity, in that these are dogs that are primed for conflict at any minute. Okay, they're ready to go because they're insecure. So one of the dogs I have at my home is a German Shepherd that failed out of a police school. He was traumatized somewhere along the line, and he ended up in my house. And for the first few months, he was rock hard muscle. You touch him, there was no give to his muscle. He was very, very insecure and very uptight about the world. So this was a really good learning tool for me. Touching, you have to actually physically touch the dog to feel the muscle tone. Now, a confident dog, they have loose muscle tone. They're ready for anything. They're so confident that, just tell me what time I have to go and handle that guy over there. All right. So they're just so relaxed and confident that their muscle tone is soft. When you push against them, there's some give back there. All right. So muscle tone is on our list here. The neck. Neck refers to how is the neck carrying the head. A high head carriage, the head is carried high, is generally a confident dog. The lower the head, the less confident generally. You have to consider the breed and the work that the dog is doing, and I'll show that in the next slide. But how the head is being carried by the neck is an indication of confidence or insecurity, even dominance. And I say you have to pay attention to the breed and the work, because here we have a border collie and they stalk. That's their job. That's what they do. And, I say that there's outliers. Here is a dog that carries his head carriage low. He's stalking. That is not insecurity. That's just the breed and the work that this dog is doing. So what else is on the neck? The hackles. All right. So the hackles are on the neck, and when they rise up, it's called piloerection. So when a dog piloerects, typically it's a sign of insecurity. It's a bluff. The dog is trying to show you, hey, look at how tough I am here. Look at how big I am. Go away. I don't want to engage in any type of interaction with you. So generally speaking, piloerection is a sign of insecurity. So you see those hackles come up, you're looking at an insecure dog. So when you're going to engage this dog, you're going to adjust the way you approach and communicate with this dog. All right, the head. We're looking at 3 things on the head, tons of information. but it's also lower on the scale. So remember, these things are listed in order, and the head is towards the bottom. We're almost to the end here, but there's a lot of information on the head of a dog. We're going to be looking at ears, mouth, and eyes. So generally speaking, a confident dog will hold his ears forward or up, and then the less confident they are, they start to drop back. I spoke earlier about, watching a dog's ears. Just because the dog's ears is back doesn't mean your dog is insecure. Look at the big picture, the totality of the circumstances, and just remember that you have to look at the big picture. But generally speaking, confident dogs hold their ears up, and then the less confident they are, the further back they're pinned. Even if it's a floppy-ear dog, you can usually tell still from the base of the ear whether they're being perked forward or back. All right, so pay attention to the base of the ears as well. I'm a big proponent for reading dogs' ears because a lot of times it'll tell you where the dog is paying attention to. All right, so are they paying attention to me, or are they paying attention to the guy downrange? And I watch a dog's ears because if they are, say, focused on, our bad guy downrange or our decoy downrange, and they check in on the handler or dad or mom, then that's the time to give those recall commands or whatever the case may be. There's a drill that we do for dogs. So I want to send my dog down to a decoy, and before the dog engages, I want to recall the dog so that there's no engagement. And the way I start this is we call it baby recalls, and I'll down a dog facing the decoy. Decoy's kind of dull, but the dog is down, I'm behind my dog, and I'll watch the dog's ears. And when the dog is focused on the decoy, which he should be, eventually, a lot of times they will check in on dad. All right, and once I see that, that's when you give the recall command, because now they're paying attention to you. And then another thing when it comes to ears is if you send your dog downrange after a decoy or whatever, and their ears are forward, then their brain is engaged, everything's a go. Still, you're still got a dog's brain. But once they tuck their ears back, that's a damage control thing that dogs do. And they know they're going into combat, so they tuck their ears to protect their ears. And once those ears are tucked, generally, they've made the decision, and what you say or do is not going to happen. It's not going to change that. So pay attention to the dog's ears. There's a lot of information there. All right, the mouth. Want to pay attention to the dog's lips and the lip curl. So a confident dog's lips and mouth is generally open. Dog's tongue might be hanging out, that type of thing, but they're just very relaxed and on their lips. The less confident dogs will start a lip curl, and they'll show their teeth. All right, and that's generally a sign of insecurity. What they're doing is they curl their lips and they show their front teeth. That's called short mouth because they're just showing a small amount of teeth. And that's a lesser confident dog. But what they're saying, it's a bluff. All right, see these teeth? I can do a lot of damage. And by the way, I might have some piloerection going on too. And then even more insecure dogs will give you what's called long mouth, and they're showing not just the front, but all of their teeth. And they're trying to really bluff their way through this this interaction so that they don't have to engage. All right, so short mouth, long mouth versus a very loose, confident dog, loose mouth on a confident dog. All right, the eyes. All right, eyes are the dog's window to the soul. All right, these are where the emotions come apparent. You remember during COVID, we all had our masks on, but we could tell if each other was mad or sad or whatever the case may be, and it's all in the eyes. So law enforcement, people who deal with criminals or whatever, where their life depends on reading people and reading eyes, you guys are already way ahead of the game. So this takes a lot of practice to read the dog's emotions through their eyes. And I put this photo up here because there's some eye stuff going on here that I like to point out. And so the yellow lab with the blue ball, you know, he looks content, he looks happy. And then this golden retriever, just looking at his eyes, you know, what I see is a wise ass. All right. He wants to start something. So, you know, looking away from all the rest of the body, I'm just looking at his eyes. This is a guy he's thinking bad thoughts. All right. So pay attention to these dogs' eyes and just know it takes a lot of practice to really get good on it, to get good at it. But law enforcement people are usually ahead of the game when it comes to reading eyes. This one I just put up, I pulled these off the internet. These are just random dogs. And if I'm looking at the yellow lab puppy, I see another content pup. You know, nothing much going on there. The two on the right-hand side, you know, whether it's sad or frightened, but they're starting to show the whites of their eyes. But you can see the emotions coming out from those dogs. The black dog on the bottom with the ears perked, you know, in my opinion, that's a dog is just sheer confidence. He's just bring it. I got it, you know, and it's all in his eyes. All right. So it's worth paying attention to the dog's eyes. All right. The last one of the 7 steps is the tail. This is the least important of anything. Same 2 dogs on the left. I'm looking at a tail that's held high. Tails that are held high are generally confident, secure, maybe dominant dogs. And then the less confident or less dominant the dog, the lower the carriage, even to the point on the one on the right where the tail is can be even tucked under. All right, that's a very insecure dog. Some more drawings from Doc's book. Confident dog holding his tail above the spine. The next one above the spine, but still respectful. And then the less confident they are, the lower the tail carriage. Okay, so those were the 7 steps. Those were the 7 steps, and we can talk about those again if you want to. But there's some things that I want to show you about dogs communicating with each other. And the first one is this whole rank thing. These are your 2 dogs, and we call this teeing up. So the picture on the screen, there's 2 sets of dogs. So the 2 dogs up top are engaging. All right, so they're meeting, and only upper-ranking dogs are allowed to control the space around their body. So only upper-ranking dogs are allowed to control the space around their body. And if you're not an upper-ranking dog, then you're expected to stand still for inspection. And that's where this teeing up comes from. So the 2 dogs on the top of the screen, the one being sniffed has agreed that he is a lower-ranking dog and he's going to stand still for inspection. The upper-ranking dog comes into a T position and inspects the dog, the lower-ranking dog. The 2 dogs on the bottom, these are 2 dogs that have not relinquished their rank, and they both think that they are upper ranking, so they're both vying for that T position. And that's where you see that spinning, right? They're both vying for the T position, and this is a dog fight brewing. So if you see this happening and it's not play, then it's worth getting in there and managing that. Okay, rank again. We looked at this one photo on the left, dog touching the withers of another. Again, only upper-ranking dogs are allowed to control the space around their body. And this dog on the left is agreed that he is lower-ranking and allows the upper-ranking dogs to touch the withers, put their paw or their chin on the withers of a lower-ranking dog. I'm sure you've seen this even in play, but this is how we Americans greet dogs. We reach over the top of a dog and we touch their withers, which is a mistake in the dog world and in dog language. So this is why some people get bit. The drawings on the right-hand side, this is one dog who has agreed that he is lower ranking, and to the point where he is going to roll over and expose his genitalia, and the upper ranking dog is allowed to stand over and straddle even the lower ranking dog. All right, Beckoff's play bow. So Beckoff just happened to name it. He was the guy who called this out, so he got his name on it. So it's the play bow. And I know you've seen this. These are two dogs that do this. They drop their the front of their body low, and they keep their tail section high. And it's a quick play bow, and you can do it yourself to your dogs. I do it to my dogs all the time. What this is saying is that this is play, and anything that follows is not serious. Okay, so you can see the play bow, and then they start wrestling. It's not serious. My dogs, I have two dogs at home. They do this all the time. They're play bow, and then they'll chase each other or wrestle. All right, so if you see the play bow, just know that whatever follows generally is not serious. All right, paw lifts. See this a lot. I'm sure you guys have seen this a lot too. So the dog on the left is just by himself, and he's lifting his paw, or he's standing on three, but one paw is lifted. This is a dog that's making a decision. So I'm live in the woods, so my house is surrounded by woods, and my German Shepherd will go into my backyard, and he'll look into the woods and he'll lift his paw. He's deciding whether he wants to go chase animals or what he wants to do. And when he's trying to make a decision, that's when I make the decision for him, and I do a recall. But he does this paw lift, and you will see dogs lift their paw. That's a dog that's making a decision. If you see it and you don't like what their decision could be, that's the time to get in there and make a decision for them. The photo on the right, the drawing on the right, this is, I see this all the time. And if you start looking, you will see it too. This is a handler with his dog, and the dog is lifting his paw. What this is a dog trying to show submission to the handler. All right. Now, when you're handling dogs, and these dogs are, the dog and the handler facing the same direction, it's really hard for the handler to see. So if you see it, I always like to mention to the handler, like, hey, your dog's doing a paw lift. He's trying to show you that he's submitting to you. So it doesn't have to be a heavy-handed person, but I know that I mentioned it to heavy-handed handlers where the dog is standing there paw lifting and trying to show submission. But I had a dog. My last working dog was very, very sensitive to me, and he would sit there and paw lift, even though I was not heavy on him at all. So the paw lift is, in this situation, is a dog trying to show submission to the handler. Look for it, you'll see it. All right, the trap. All right, this is an aggression workout. This is where decoys get hurt sometimes. We call this the trap. So we went through the 7 steps. We talked about those. Here's a dog that is in an aggression workout, and he's showing ambivalent, like conflicting signals. All right, so if we went through, we can't look at the energy. I mean, he's alive and energetic. So, but the stride and the body axis is upright and forward. Even though he's sitting, he's still sitting very tall. But then his head is turned to the side, but his ears are perked. So he's showing these conflicting information. So is he confident or is he not confident? Well, it's written as the trap for a reason. This is a dog that is so secure that he's going to lure the decoy into a trap. And the big giveaway here is the back tie. All right, that line that the dog is attached to, it's loose. So you'll see these dogs, they come out, they feel that the back tie, they tug a little bit, okay, and then they back up a few steps, and it's a trap. What they're trying to do is show that they're insecure. Please don't come in close. But once you get inside that apex there and the dog can get to you, they own you. All right. So pay attention to this trap. Pay attention to what the line is doing, not just the dog. This is a very, very secure dog. Okay, so where can you get this information? In this book right here. This is written by Dr. McKenzie, Decoys and Aggression. Everything that is we talked about is in this book. I always plug Doc's books. They're amazing information. His family do get royalties still. It's not much, but they do get royalties, and I'll always plug Doc's book. Two other recommended readings. The one on the left is called How Dogs Learn by Dr. Birch, and I can't remember, I can't see it here. Birch and Bailey, I'm sorry. Excellent book. I use it as a textbook in the courses when I was teaching at the college. It's a lot of behavior stuff, but it's very, very well written and very easy to read and understand. So How Dogs Learn was like, you know, a Bible almost to me. I carried it with me everywhere. The book on the right, Aggression Control, Teaching the Owl, that's another one of Doc's books. Also filled with phenomenal information. Okay, so this is me. My phone number's on there. Feel free to call or text anytime. My email, and then I do have a small business now, KM Canine. So I'm available at kmcanine.com. I do appreciate this opportunity to present this through USPCA. This is very big for me, so thank you very much. And I'm open for questions.
Questions? I think somebody has something up. Oh, there's Steve.
Yeah, Kyle, I got a question, or not a question. Decoys and aggression, I think it would be fair to say, takes a different approach to the topic than most canine handlers are trained in. And if, for example, if you take a look at that book, you'll almost never see the word drive. There's very little about drives. And I think I'd love it if you could explain to the audience the power of the book and the system it describes.
Yeah, so drives is something that it was taboo with Doc and I. All right, I was not even allowed to use the word. So there's some of the coursework that I'm planning on teaching through here talks about this, and we're going to address it way more. But the drive theory was discredited years ago. I think it was in the 50s. But we look at the five contributors to animal behavior. All right, so genetics, chemistry, early life experience, adult learning, and then health of the dog as well. So we never use the word drives. And so, you know, again, I walk around with this stuff in my pocket all the time, which is kind of cool. And so I'm looking at behaviors through that lens and not through the drive lens. It's kind of funny because Doc, he would address it and he says, he would always say, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm going to present it. And if you don't agree, it's okay. But he wouldn't approach the drive thing.
So do you find in your teaching now that you can make headway with people who are deeply invested in that traditional system that we all came up in? You came up in it. I came up in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I do, because I don't really argue the point. I say, look, this is what I teach, and this is what I think happens. And I think I kind of put it off as like, oh, it's a terminology thing. It's an industry term. So if somebody mentions a drive to me, then I'll ask them, what do you mean by that? And I try to extract out from that conversation what they're talking about. But so far, I've been pretty successful. I don't have to argue any points, and I won't get into it because I know it's deeply embedded in the industry. I hope that answered your question.
You got me.
Danny, go ahead.
Hey, I was going to ask Steve and Kyle, do you think we can substitute that word drive for 7 steps?
No, this is the drive part of it is more behavioral, and that comes in. There's a couple of presentations that I hope to do with you guys. And when it comes to identifying causes of behaviors, then I look at those 5 factors that contribute to behavior instead of drives, and not so much on the 7 steps, not so much.
Okay.
So Kyle, you make a good point. This is going to be the first of 4 videos that you're going or webinars that you're going to present for us.
Yes, I hope to. Yeah, I appreciate
Oh,
this. This opportunity
absolutely.
is amazing. I thank you very much for it. So the next presentation I was thinking about doing is the 8 signals of search dogs, and it's another one of Steve's, Doc McKenzie's developments. 8 signals of dogs are working, and it kind of puts it into a nice little package for people to follow and identify what their dog is doing. But that, and then behavior stuff as well. So I'm on board, man, and I appreciate this.
Yeah. Thank you. We do too, very much. All right. We're set to go. Thank you again.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you, everyone. Be safe out there.
Kyle.
Thank you.
Thank you.